The High Court in Dubai found that Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum illegally hacked into cell phones, including those of his ex-wife, Princess Haya of Jordan. Secret phone calls between Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai, and Princess Haya have been stolen, revealing shocking information about their troubled relationship. The couple's public marriage looked perfect from the outside for years. But the truth is much worse. We're going to talk about the relationship between Dubai's king and Princess Haya in detail today. We'll talk about secrets of power, betrayal, and fear. Without further ado, let us start. In the beginning, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Master of Dubai and Vice President of the United Arab Emirates, married Princess Haya bint Al Hussein, daughter of the late King Hussein of Jordan, in 2004. It was one of the most famous royal weddings in the Arab world. People saw the marriage as a strong partnership between two powerful families, representing a coming together of wealth, power, and status. But this fairy tale wouldn't last long. Not long ago, all of Princess Haya's secrets were leaked when secret notes were found on the phone of the ruler of Dubai. Before we talk about how bad things really are, though, let's talk about what we already knew about the royal couple. Let's go back to the beginning. Sheikh Mohammed chose a wife with her own unique personality and reputation. Sheikh Mohammed was already a huge name in world politics and was known for making Dubai a global business hub. Princess Haya, who was from Jordan's royal family, was well known for her involvement in international horse sports. She even competed for her country in the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. Her schooling at prestigious schools like Oxford University made her look even more like a modern, well-educated princess. Giving back to the community and helping others gave her a sense of freedom that went beyond her royal duties and made her a famous figure in the Arab world. From the outside, their marriage looked perfect. When they were at high-profile events, like major horse races, they often went together because they both loved the sport. Since Sheikh Mohammed owned the famous Godolphin horse race stable, he was also very much a part of this world. The couple's many public appearances, at royal events, state ceremonies, and sporting events, gave the impression that they were very happy together, both individually and professionally. On the surface, this life seemed perfect, but there were already signs of stress. Princess Haya, who was strong and independent, was slowly understanding how much power her husband had over her. It was said that they respected and admired each other during their courtship and early marriage, but it was soon clear that their jobs were very different. Haya was used to having her own space and time, so she fit right in with Dubai's public life at first. But the strict rules of the palace started to bother her. As the sixth wife of the sheikh, she quickly learned that the world was very structured, with rules, customs, and the sheikh's political and personal power ruling everything. One of the first signs of disagreement was that their personal lives were not the same. As someone who was used to being known and free around the world, Haya felt confined in the royal court in Dubai. Rich people seemed to be loving the perks that come with being very wealthy, like fancy homes, private jets, and high-class events, but people were becoming more and more unhappy with the lack of personal freedom. What Haya thought royal life would be like in Dubai was different from anything she had ever experienced. Her professional and charitable goals were slowly overshadowed by her rising loneliness and the realization that she had to fit in with her new home's male-dominated structure. Haya learned about how the sheikh treated women, especially his own children, even though she was a princess from a different royal family. This was a very important turning point. Haya couldn't stop thinking about the sad stories of Sheikh Mohammed's daughters, Sheikha Shamsa and Sheikh Latifa, who both tried to leave Dubai but failed. It was said that the girls wanted to be free from the same kind of male control that Princess Haya was now facing. The fact that they were sent back to Dubai against their will made Haya feel uncomfortable. As the ruler's new wife got used to life in Dubai, she learned more about how powerful her husband was in politics. Sheikh Mohammed, a ruler known for having a clear sense of what the future holds, turned Dubai into a haven of wealth and modernity. However, the power he had over his family was similar to the power he had over his emirate. People admired Dubai's economic growth and technology progress, but its leaders were very strict and dictatorial, especially when it came to family issues. Haya felt conflicted as she learned more about how Sheikh Mohammed controlled her. She loved her kids and the chances that came with being a princess, but the atmosphere around her was getting worse and worse. The bigger problems of control, coercion, and subjugation were hidden by the public shows of wealth and success. Haya had the same problems as other women in the Dubai royal family, but because she was famous around the world, she was able to use her resources and voice to change things. Sheikh Mohammed and Princess Haya were both huge horse racing fans, and they often went to events like the famous Royal Ascot together. Their public appearances were planned to give the impression that they were a strong and happy royal pair. But behind closed doors, the balance of power was changing, and Princess Haya's independence in the relationship started to weaken. She learned that in 2000 Sheikh Shamsa had run away from her family's home in Surrey, but she was caught and taken back to Dubai, where she was held against her will. In the same way Sheikh Latifa tried to leave in 2018. Commandos caught them off the coast of India and brought them back to Dubai. From what I've already said, these events have made Haya think less of her husband. When she learned that Sheikh Mohammed had planned the kidnapping of his own girls, it shattered her first impressions of him. She started to understand that not only did he have a lot of power and control over Dubai, but also over his family. This showed a level of control that made Haya worry about her own safety and the safety of her kids. Tensions rose as the princess thought that she might have the same thing happen to her if she didn't do what her husband wanted. There were reports that Haya felt more and more stuck after she learned the truth about what Sheikh Mohammed had done. She tried to keep her kids safe, but it made her feel more alone. In the royal family's home, there were limits on her moves, and she felt like she was always being watched, which made her even more paranoid. At about the same time, the couple's public image began to change. Haya's role in public life in Dubai began to lessen. As a modern, educated woman with a view of the world, she had taken on a number of public tasks at first, such as charity work and speaking for Dubai at international meetings. But over time, she lost some of her power. Whether it was because the sheikh liked more traditional gender roles or because he wanted to keep more control over Haya, she became much less visible and free. When Princess Haya found out she was being manipulated and watched, the personal conflict hit a boiling point. She was afraid that she and her own children would be the next targets after she learned that Sheikh Mohammed had taken his girls. The worst things got for her as she learned more about how much power he had over his family. In 2019, Princess Haya could no longer handle the situation. The marriage was so bad at this point that it could not be saved. Not only with what Sheikh Mohammed did, but also with how life worked in the royal family as a whole. She felt constantly on edge because of the environment of fear, control, and surveillance. Due to the Sheikh's overbearing presence and her growing separation from the public, she had to make a terrible choice. She had an affair. In 2019, Princess Haya bint Al Hussein broke the shaky peace between Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum and her husband when she left Dubai with her 2 kids to find safety in London. This move wasn't made out of the blue, it was the result of months or even years of growing stress in their marriage. The relationship was already tense because of different ideas about who had power and who was in charge. It finally broke down after a finding that led to one of the most public royal splits in recent memory. Haya's affair with her British bodyguard, which Sheikh Mohammed is said to have found out about in early 2019, was the direct cause of her departure. This news was especially shocking because of how traditional things are in the UAE, but can have very bad results. The relationship, which supposedly started when Princess Haya felt more and more alone in the royal family, quickly turned into a dangerous situation. When Sheikh Mohammed found out about the affair, it made people feel angry, betrayed, and scared. As the leader of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed had a lot of power over his family, and it wasn't just over their personal lives, and into every part of their private and public lives. Finding out that his wife had been cheating on him was not only an insult to his pride, but it was also embarrassing in public and could hurt his image. It was a clear breach of the strict moral rules that the leading families of the UAE must follow. Now though, things get really interesting. Haya seemingly made up her mind to run away after her affair was made public. During her court evidence, Princess Haya talked about how she felt threatened after Sheikh Mohammed found out she was cheating on him. She was afraid for her safety and the safety of her 2 kids, Al-Jalila, 14, and Zaid, 10. She thought that her husband's anger could lead to bad things happening, like what happened to his girls. Haya was always scared because she knew her freedom and the freedom of her children were in danger. Tensions reached a peak when Haya, with the help of her brother, King Abdullah II of Jordan, was able to leave Dubai in early 2019. It was brave and risky for her to run away to London. When she left, there was a media frenzy right away, because she was one of the most well-known royals to leave the UAE in that way. Several news sources say that Haya first tried to get refuge in Germany before deciding to stay in the UK. She now lives in a heavily guarded mansion in Kensington, close to where Prince William and Kate Middleton live. At the time, Princess Haya wasn't even sure if she could keep her head on straight, let alone anything else. Not long ago, the secret notes told the world about her secrets, which are shaking everything up. But let's not skip steps. Let's keep telling our story, the courtroom play. Princess Haya bint Al Hussein and Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum got into one of the hottest divorce cases in recent history. Their legal fight was so heated that it was covered around the world. The case brought to light not only their personal and emotional problems, but also the huge amounts of money and power that were at play in their troubled relationship. By the time it got to the UK courts, this fight had turned into a worldwide show with claims of psychological abuse and strict control. In 2019, Princess Haya ran away from Dubai with her 2 kids. Sheikh Mohammed's reaction was harsh and quick. Within a few months of her leaving, he went to court to demand that his children come back to the UAE. The case was totally unique, and not just because of the famous people involved. It was also unique because of the claims of abuse and forced control that would later come to light in UK courts. It wasn't just formal moves that Sheikh Mohammed used to get back at them. He used psychological tricks to scare Haya and show that he was in charge. One scary example was a song he wrote called You Lived, You Died, and put online soon after Haya ran away. A lot of people saw the song as a threat against her. This was something that Haya would later say in court as part of her claims of abuse. Even though the sheikh had a lot of power and resources, Princess Haya fought back in the UK courts. She was determined to protect herself and her children from what she called a pattern of control and bullying. Haya wrote in her court papers about a series of scary events that made her worry about her safety. In December 2021, the UK High Court gave Princess Haya a settlement of $700 million, which was the largest ever. This huge amount of money was meant to cover her and her kids' future safety and living costs. The judge said that Sheikh Mohammed had to pay a lump sum of about $300 million. He also had to pay an extra $4 million a year for their children's schooling and $14 million a year for their safety until they turned 18. The settlement was one of the biggest in British history, and it showed how lavishly the pair had lived while they were married. The court made its decision based on how dangerous it was for Haya and her kids, not from outside threats, but from the sheikh himself. The High Court said that Sheikh Mohammed was the main threat to their safety. They used the fact that his daughters Sheikha Latifa and Sheikha Shamsa had been abducted before as proof that he was ready to use force to control his family. Not only was the deal meant to protect Haya's future, it was also meant to stop the sheikh from trying again to take away her freedom or hurt her children. This included plans for armored cars, a large security team, and even limits on buying homes near Haya's homes in the UK so that the sheikh couldn't get any closer to her privacy. One of the most shocking things about the court case was how Princess Haya's mental and emotional abuse during her marriage came to light. Even though Sheikh Mohammed denied it in public, the court found a lot of proof that he had been forcing and influencing people for a long time. She claimed that the sheikh's acts had taken away all of her freedom and safety. These actions, like publishing threatening songs and buying homes near her home in the UK without her knowledge, were meant to make her less independent and put psychological pressure on her. According to the court, what Haya said was shockingly bad treatment of a family member. Sir Andrew McFarlane, the judge, said that the sheikh had constantly done things that showed he didn't care about Haya's rights or well-being. The court said that what he did had badly traumatized Haya and made her always afraid for herself and her children. The court case revealed things that were very different from the fancy life the pair used to live. By the time the court case was over, the early years of their marriage, when they showed off their money and love in public, were a faraway memory. People used to think of them as a power couple at the center of the Dubai elite, but that image was ultimately false and hid a darker truth. Princess Haya used to have a great life because she was married to one of the richest kings in the world. They lived a very fancy life with many expensive homes, private jets, and almost an endless budget for everything from vacations to personal safety. But Haya had been living in what she later called a gilded cage behind all this wealth, being watched and managed by her husband at all times. The court case made the oppressive truth of her life in the royal family clear. Before, getting married to the King of Dubai seemed like a fairy tale, but by the end, it was a fight to stay alive. As more about the court case came out, it became clear that Haya's escape from Dubai wasn't just an act of rebellion, it was also a desperate move. So you can see that Sheikh Mohammed and Princess Haya's divorce was a lot more than just a formal split. It let everyone know about the terrible mental and emotional abuse that had been going on behind closed doors during their royal marriage. The huge financial deal set a new record and showed how rich and privileged the people involved were. But what the case really showed was how bad the relationship was for the people involved. But no one could have known that this wasn't really the end of the story. Peleus. When Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum and Princess Haya got a divorce, it became a worldwide scandal involving spying, tracking, and force. Secret phone calls between the master of Dubai just let out all the information about Princess Haya and what she really went through. It turned out that the sheikh spied on his separated wife and her lawyers using the very invasive Pegasus spyware, finding out about private conversations and scaring her in the process. The Israeli company NSO Group made Pegasus, a spying tool that can get into cell phones and listen in on calls, read messages, and even use microphones without being seen. Most of the time, it is only sold to states to fight terrorism and major crimes. But Sheikh Mohammed lied about using this technology to spy on Princess Haya, her lawyers, and close friends and family, including Baroness Shackleton, who was Princess Haya's lawyer. It was shocking that this privacy was broken, especially since it was related to a family disagreement. Because Haya was scared, she left Dubai, and this finding proved that the Sheikh was still trying to control her, even though he was far away. The Sheikh broke into Princess Haya's phone at least 11 times between July and August 2020, while they were in court fighting over who would have care of their 2 kids. That wasn't all he did. He gave the bugs to Haya's lawyers so he was able to spy on her whole defense team in court. One of the scariest things that came out was that she said she got a message from Sheikh Mohammed telling her to go to hell. This message showed how much he hated her and how much mental pressure he put on her. When put together with the Sheikh's other actions, the leaked text showed a very disturbing pattern of behavior. He had already planned to kidnap his 2 girls when they tried to run away. And the leaked phone messages showed that Haya was right to be afraid for her own safety. She already knew that her life was in danger, and these messages made her fears even stronger. As the court case went on, it became clear that Princess Haya was going through a lot of mental pain. She was found crying with her hands over her head, as if the stress of the legal fight and the constant threat against her and her children were not enough to handle. The phone texts that were leaked were only one part of the Sheikh's larger plan to control and dominate her. Haya's testimony in court made a scary picture of life under the ruler of Dubai, but these new messages show things that were even more amazing than we thought possible. Even though she was safe in the UK, where she had asked for refuge, the Sheikh's power and influence seemed to keep following her. As more people learned about what Sheikh Mohammed had done, his public image started to change. He was no longer just seen as the modern, innovative leader who had made Dubai a center for the world. In its place, his cruel and controlling side was shown. The picture of him looking over Haya with a mean grin came to represent how much power and control he had over his family. Sheikh Mohammed sent a clear message, even though he was thousands of miles away from Princess Haya. He knew how to get to her no matter where she was and would do anything to stay in charge. The leaked messages were a stark reminder of how people with a lot of power, like the Sheikh, could use it to not only run a country, but also to suffocate and control those nearest to them. In the end, these messages give a rare look into how one of the world's most guarded and powerful royal families works. People often see Dubai as a shining model of progress and modernity in the Middle East. But the news about Sheikh Mohammed's behavior broke that image. They show that Dubai's leading family kept secrets, manipulated people, and kept control over everyone else. The fact that these messages were made public was a mixed win for Princess Haya. It made her feel better about her fears and brought attention to the abuse she had been through. In contrast, it proved that Sheikh Mohammed really was a danger that would not go away and would affect many people. The public could now see for sure the evil methods the Sheikh used to control Haya and anyone else who tried to stand up to him. Finally, what do you think about the way this man treats people who don't dance the way he does? As always, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Until then.